Hey guys, what's going on? This is Jason, and you're listening to the Mainstream Geek Podcast for March 23rd, 2016. Today we're going to be talking about The Walking Dead episode 614, Twice as Far, and we're also going to be covering Daredevil Season 2, the first half of it. A little bit of housekeeping before we start the show. Make sure that you are subscribed to the show on iTunes or Stitcher, whichever one you choose to listen on. Make sure that you're subscribed on that one. If you already are subscribed, please make sure that you are leaving us a rating and review. It's how we grow the show. It's how we're found, giving us more listeners, which makes the show worth doing. Check out the YouTube channel. You can find new content on there. I posted a video earlier this week about the end credit scenes of the Marvel Universe, so go check that out. If you've been thinking about starting a little toy or geek collection of knickknacks, visit mainstreamgeek.com/nerdblock and sign up there. That helps the show out greatly. Also, another way you can help the show out is, I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but there are costs associated with doing a podcast. Not only time costs, but there's financial costs. Those costs come in the form of hosting services. So you have to have a server, which in my case is owned by GoDaddy.com. And if you go over a bandwidth allotment, you start getting charged for that. So if you guys want to support the show and you like what we're doing here, please consider going to mainstreamgeek.com/donate and dropping us $1, $5, $10, $20, $30 for all the work we put into the show every week. It's a lot of hours that we put into this to bring you a little bit of content every week, and it would be greatly appreciated. So again, visit mainstreamgeek.com/donate and leave us a little bit of something. If you choose to leave something, I greatly appreciate it, and let's get geeky. Hey guys, what's going on? Brandon's here.
Hi.
Yeah, that's where you said hi. So, this week is a bit different. We're not going to have news stories per se. We're going to do our weekly Walking Dead rundown. And then we're going to go into a rundown. Not a rundown. Brandon, what would you call what we're doing for Daredevil? Because there's just too much to do for this.
An analysis, maybe?
Yeah, an analysis.
It's kind of a halfway analysis.
Yeah, so we're going to do episodes 1 through 8. Is that where we're stopping at, Brandon?
Yeah, I believe that was what we said.
Yeah, because that had the best break point, the best shift in story break point, it seems to be.
Seems to be, right, because
yeah.
having not seen the second half.
Yeah, so we're going to break that down. So those are really the only two things we're going to talk about on the show today. Brandon, why don't we jump into The Walking Dead first and get through that quickly, because this week's Walking Dead wasn't really a barn burner, if you will. It was a pretty... I don't want to say tame, because stuff happened, right?
Right, definitely things happened.
But it wasn't...
Well, things happened at the end, I guess.
Yeah. So it wasn't exactly the most exciting episode, this. So we can go through that one pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So how did the show start out this week? Remind me.
Well, so they did this thing, and I thought maybe that my I don't have cable anymore, so I thought maybe my Sling TV was messing up because they did the same. They played the same scene like 3 times.
Yeah.
Well, not the same scene, but a very similar
It started
scene.
out the same every time. And the second time it started, I was like, what the fuck? Because it kind of ended oddly with Rick talking to Morgan in that jail cell, which, by the way, I totally called that shit. That's what he was building.
You did.
Yeah.
Give you props on that one. Yeah, so he I guess he looks finished. He finished that jail. Rick asks him why he's building that, and he says... so we have options next time.
Yeah.
And then they go through that route, kind of showing the routine of Alexandria, I guess, is the point of doing that. They show that again. There's Carol counting her rosaries and whatever. And then they play eerie music, and then the theme song starts. Was that the point of it, just to show that life was like getting routine for them?
I think the point of that was just to show that no matter how crazy it gets, they've kind of got a thing down, routine, like you said,
right? And
they've settled into a kind of a day-to-day life here.
Yeah.
So
at this point, do you think that they think that well, that was a poorly worded sentence. Do you think they believe the saviors are all dead, that they've killed all of them?
At this point in the episode, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think that by that guy in the previous episode saying, I am Negan, and then Rick blowing his head off, I think they think they got Negan.
But there were other. But I guess the counter to that would be there were other people that people that had Carol and what's her name, captive, Maggie
were coming.
They were on the radio. So
here's my thought on that. I thought the exact same thing. My initial thought on that was maybe those people did show up, and since Rick had made the deal with the Hilltop people to kill the gang, that Carol and Maggie said people are coming. Well, actually, Carol and Maggie killed them, remember? And that they put them in that room and locked them in and caught them on fire.
Oh, that's right. Those were the people that were coming. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, they do think everyone's dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then we get Rosita. She's sleeping with Spencer is his name.
Yeah. I'm glad you wrote this rundown down because I forgot a whole lot about this episode. Spencer's his name. It's... who's his mom? The one who ran Alexandria.
The mayor or whatever she was. Yeah. She used to be a senator or whatever.
He's the dude that was stealing stuff from the rations garage.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a little awkward. They have the classic, like, who are we? What are we? Really, conversation.
Is this shallow of me to think that when I saw that they were sleeping together, I was like, good, because he's an attractive guy, and she's probably arguably the two most attractive people, and I was like, good, they could fuck each other. I get how that hookup happens.
I think that's kind of sweet. You think that? I don't think it's shallow.
Well, no, but the Abraham and her hooking up, I never understood because she is pretty smoking hot.
Yeah,
and I kind of understood it because it was like a last choice kind of thing. Like out of all the options, she had Abraham and Eugene to choose from. Of course, you're going to bang Abraham.
Right.
So now that the other options are out there, I'm glad, like, the logical one is kind of...
I guess, but he's kind of a pussy. I don't like him.
I don't know if she knows that.
Maybe she was paying attention when he was gallivanting around and trying to be a... What was he? He was, like, escaping, and they had to save him one time.
He wasn't escaping. You mean when he was going across that cable when the attack was happening?
Right. Yeah, he was trying to be a hero.
Yeah, he was trying to be a hero.
And then there was another time I thought he was outside the wall. Oh, he was looking for his mom, and they had to save him.
Yeah. Michonne had to save him, yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe she doesn't know that, but I don't like him. Yeah. I know it. And then, let's see, Daryl and Carol were talking. Daryl got his motorcycle back, and he found that little thing that the people in the forest had whittled for him or whatever.
Yeah.
And they talk. Carol asks him about the people in the forest if he saved them, and that comes up later because the dude. Yeah, that comes up later in the episode. Then they go through that routine montage again, but everything is empty this time. We already talked about that. So we come back from commercial, and Abraham and Eugene are on a run. Eugene's taking him to that smelting factory, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And Eugene has a pretty good plan of making bullets, which is pretty good in this world.
That's in the comic, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. And what do you think about their banter in the episode?
Do you mean in the actual factory when that happened?
And throughout the whole episode, they had several moments where they were bantering and arguing back and forth.
Well, the only one that's popping out to me at the moment is the one in the factory when they had to fight the leadhead zombie, which I thought was kind of a cool zombie design because, I mean, I like when they expand, like, what if people died in this way when this was going on? I like that.
I like that too.
Yeah, but this episode made me kind of disgusted with Eugene a little bit. Well, not Eugene, the character. I like the changing with him, but it's what I've talked about before, how it doesn't seem like the writers know how to gradiate from one way a character's thinking into an absolute complete turn. Like, he's always been this huge pussy, and they haven't shown that he's been getting better at that. All of a sudden, he's just this hard ass that wants to be on his own. That's what I'm always talking. They have so many characters in the show that I don't feel like there's enough time, not by their own fault. Well, it is by their own fault because they put the characters in there to show that he wants to become this hard ass all of a sudden. So,
well, it's either that or they didn't do a good enough job of providing that through the events in the episode, showing us that he's changed or showing us why he was being such a dick.
Yeah.
And he was being a total dick for no real reason.
When that happened, though, what happened? I'm sorry, we didn't even explain it. What happened is Eugene tried to kill a zombie whose head was coated in hardened lead, and he obviously couldn't kill him. And then Abraham had to save him.
Mm-hmm.
So Eugene got mad and said, "I don't need your services anymore," in his douchebaggy way of speaking.
Right.
And sent him off. I knew that Abraham wasn't going to leave, though. I knew he was just going to kind of step back and like you do a little kid when he's on a bike and like let him think he's on his own, but you're actually right there. But that happened. So the banter, I don't know, it kind of bothered me because I don't like the way that they switch character personalities to suit each individual script, because I really feel like next week Eugene could just be a pussy again, which he kind of was in this episode too. Towards the end, we'll get to that when we get there. But I guess he wasn't a pussy. We'll get to that when we get there.
Yeah. I just didn't understand why he was being such a dick to him. And I it wasn't that long ago where he was completely lying about who he was, and Abraham risked everything he had to keep this guy alive. And then all of a sudden, he's going to tell him that he doesn't need him anymore. I don't know. I didn't understand where that was coming from.
Plus the balls in the dude, because Abraham beat the fuck out of him one time. The fuck, I say. Like, hardcore. And just for what you just said. So, yeah, the balls in him for even trying to not come correctly with Abraham, I guess is the only way of saying it.
Yeah. Yeah. I did some of so that bothered me, but I did like the some of the lines they had between each other later in the episode when we'll get there. But and then some of the one-liners and stuff that they were talking to each other, I found it humorous, and I found it kind of, I don't know, it was a nice to have that kind of lighthearted stuff.
You mean like when Abraham said, "Pick up a turd from the clean end" and stuff like that?
Yeah, exactly.
He always has the best one-liners like that. Like they're great at writing those for him.
Yeah, they are. And Eugene, too. Eugene has a couple of good ways of saying things.
Isn't that actor great at delivering those long-winded monologues that Eugene has?
Josh McDermott, yeah.
Yeah, Josh McDermott, that's his name.
He is very good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we kind of talked about how there was that awkward conversation between Rosita and Spencer. And then, let's see. And then Denise convinces Rosita and Daryl to go on a run to the apothecary.
Okay.
The big problem here is, why would you let your only doctor
exactly thank you
go
Brandon.
on a run when she's never faced a zombie in her life before?
First off, was Rick consulted about this? I mean, or did they just take off? Because there's no way in hell, if you're the only doctor in a town in this situation, you never get to leave.
No.
You're the one that's stuck in. I mean, that sucks, but guess what? It's a shitty situation all the way around, and you're the one that has to stay in there. And plus, everybody needs to keep you safe at all costs. You're the last one that should ever have to fight if this is all going down. So now they're just fucked for medical purposes.
I know. And also, the other thing is, it doesn't really make sense that she doesn't feel useful because she's the doctor.
Right.
Like, why would you not feel? You're like one of the most useful people in the entire group.
Well,
just
don't
because
we find
you can
out?
Kill a zombie.
You know what? Actually, this is later in the episode. I'll talk about when we get there, just for time purposes.
Okay. So that bothered both of us. They go on their path. They decide to take Rosita decides to take the tracks. The rest of them follow the path, which I believe when Rosita took the tracks, I believe that's when the Savior saw them, and then they followed them on the way back. But that's just me projecting. Let's see. So Rosita gets to the town first. They find the store. Denise gets freaked out. She goes in that room where there's a walker with a cast on, and I didn't get this from the first viewing, but I watched a little bit of Talking Dead, and I guess that was we're supposed to be led to believe. Did you get this? What the sink was?
Yeah.
In that room?
Okay, so I was a little confused about that, but let me tell you what I thought it was and tell me if you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I gathered that the woman on the floor, the zombie on the floor with the cast, was a mom, and in the sink was her baby that she had drowned for whatever reason. You can never know the reason, but is that what you gathered also?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't get that at all. I didn't, and first time I watched it, I saw there was a little shoe or something in there, and I was like, okay, where's the baby? I didn't understand it, and it was, but that's exactly what we're supposed to gather from that she drowned her baby. I guess, assumingly because the baby wouldn't be quiet, and there were walkers outside the walls.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a pretty dark turn.
That is.
Let me ask you
very
this,
dark.
though. If everybody turns, why didn't the baby come back to life when it was drowned?
That's a good question.
And why wouldn't it still be writhing in the water?
A zombie baby on TV.
So does that mean that? Well, I mean, does that? You're probably right because they don't want to show a zombie baby on TV.
I thought about that too, though.
But does that mean hypothetically that she killed the baby's brain, like smashed it on the floor or something? So I don't know. You're probably right. The main reason is they don't want to show a zombie baby on TV, which they should at this point. There have to be zombie babies out there sitting on car seats in the back of cars. Or do you think that zombies would have eaten a baby because they're just sitting there? So a zombie, if they got a hold of a baby, would have eaten the thing straight through, right?
Yeah.
Because I think zombies that are walking around are because when you see zombies catch somebody in the show in like a group or even by themselves, and the person doesn't get away. That's how people turn into zombies. It seems like when they catch them and the person is downed and unable to get away, they're just eaten. They just eat the zombie away. I mean, the person away. So maybe there wouldn't be zombie babies, or if they are, they're just babies that happen to be abandoned and they've been just a zombie sitting in a car unapproached this entire time.
Right.
Yeah.
They'd have to be remote enough to where.
Yeah.
Yeah. But once they turn zombies, I guess. They could die from natural causes in a car seat. And
that's what I'm saying.
Like turn into a zombie.
So the baby, say a baby was in the back seat of a car. And the parents got out and died somehow. The baby just sits there and starves to death.
Right.
Then that baby would turn into a zombie, and those would probably be the only zombie because you're not gonna find a bitten zombie baby.
True.
Yeah.
True. Good point.
Yeah.
I'm glad we hatched that out. So let's see. Yeah. We already talked about that.
We talked about her brother named Dennis, who, by the way, her parents are dickheads for naming Denise and Dennis.
Right. They were alcoholics.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, that's why she didn't. Rosita offered her those bottles of liquor she found. She said her parents were alcoholics, and then they named them on a bender one night. That's how they came up with the names.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
So Daryl and the group decide to take the tracks back after they get the vitamins or whatever they were getting, medicine, vitamins. Denise wants a cooler.
Yeah. So here's where I got a little confused. This is what I was talking about earlier, where I'll bring it up later in the episode.
Okay.
I don't think was I wrong in guessing what I was gathering that she didn't want to come along to be useful. She wanted to come along to try to find something for Tara, whatever her name is,
Tara,
as a gift. Did she not say that later on? I've only watched it the one time, so I'm really just watching, gathering.
I don't think she admitted to that, but Tara did. She did mention that she wanted a pop, and so that's probably why she wanted that cooler, because Tara liked pop.
Yeah.
Or Tara said in her sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we get the whole dressing her down, and then she dresses them down. And
right, which, did you understand what the hell her point was?
No.
Of her rant?
No.
I didn't either.
Thank you. It just seemed like it seemed like illogical ranting of a person who didn't want to admit that they were wrong. Like that she was just talking and hoping something made sense as it came out. You ever talk to somebody that does that? Like they're mad at you too, and they don't know why they're mad at you, so they're just going to rant until they have something that they can kind of put together as a sentence.
Yeah, and I feel like the moment that we're getting ready to talk about would have been a lot more powerful if she actually had a point. But the whole time I was trying to figure out, like, what the hell, what does she mean? She was saying that it's stupid to be scared and not face your fears.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. But here's Daryl and Rosita, who are not scared and are facing their fears every day. They're just not paralyzed by fear.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't understand that at all.
Another thing that took me out of that whole moment was the fact that Daryl and Rosita were both looking at her like, "Oh shit, she's right," and I was just like, "No, she's not. She's not saying anything."
No, she's
like
not
they
making
looked like they had
points.
like a realization on their face, like she was right, and I was just like, "What the fuck?" But but then the big moment happens, and all of a sudden an arrow comes through her head. And I thought this was really cool because she didn't like die right away. She was in the middle of her big monologue, and it just kept going, but slower and more like her brain. She went retarded halfway through it,
right?
And then she just
like in Deadpool,
yeah,
when Deadpool gets hit in the head,
yeah. But so she falls to the ground, and out of the woods come the saviors. I don't know what's left of them, but in the show, what we know are the saviors still, and the main savior in this group happens to be Dwight, the guy who had stolen Daryl's bike previously.
Yes.
Last half season. But his face is all fucked up now, and he has Daryl's crossbow, which he had just killed Denise with.
Right.
He also has Eugene on his knees in front of them, and he wants their weapons, and he wants them to take them back to their camp to get all of their stuff and anybody else they want. So I'm guessing that means your women, so we can take them and rape them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I guess I failed to mention earlier when they were going through their montages, they looked pretty well stocked now. Alexandria does.
Yeah, because they think that the Hilltop, for whatever reason,
the Hilltop has been supplying them.
But wouldn't Jesus, again, we said this last week, wouldn't Jesus have known the guy whose face is blown off by Rick there? Wouldn't he have known that wasn't Negan? So I'm still a little miffed on that one. I mean, I don't know, but maybe the person who beat the kid in front of the place was just another person.
Not Negan.
And since they're all saying they are Negan, he just doesn't know. Maybe. So that could be what they're doing.
If there's something we're missing, someone should email us and let us know. But yeah, that seems pretty obvious, and I'm hoping it's not just something they're dropping.
Yeah. But as we know, they do that sometimes.
Right.
Then Eugene, it turns out, knows that Abraham was doing the follow your kid on the bike thing and not letting him be on his own. Sells him out, kind of, right? It's not a full sellout. It's a kind of sellout.
Right. It was on purpose. Like, it was his move, I guess.
Misdirection.
How he explains later, just to give them a moment.
Yeah. And then Abraham starts blasting away and distracts the group, and they don't know where he's at, which gives Daryl and Rosita a chance to grab the guns and start killing the guys, making the saviors fall back and retreat.
Right. You missed what Eugene did.
Yeah, we missed what Eugene did. That's the biggest part of the show. Eugene bites what's his name?
Dwight.
Dwight's dick off. Did he bite it off? He bit it through the pants, so that had to be a pretty strong bite. His dick is useless now.
Yeah, it's just meat by now. Just dangling meat, I'm sure.
He nodded. Now, I don't know why. I think if somebody's biting my dick, going from a geek show into completely straight here, but if somebody's biting on my dick, the first thing I would do is start wailing on the top of their skull and kill them, you know? Like, I would just go crazy on them. Like, I know my dick would still be useless, but, like, it wouldn't make me not fight, because this guy wasn't fighting back at all. He was just he was standing there
flailing his arms around.
Yeah, like I would be doing everything to the top. I would be immobilizing this dude as much. Now, I've never been bit in the dick before, but I'm guessing that's what I would do. Maybe it does send you into like a shock, freak out kind of thing. Where you're like, oh my god, my dick. But that's pretty much
maybe. But it's either fight or flight, right? You're either gonna hit someone or try to run away.
That's pretty much the main part of my body that I cringe about as a guy, that I cringe about anything bad happening to. So I'm pretty sure I'd be as protective as I could be about that part of my body. Takes very little to hurt it. So you've got to be on your game. As a man, you've got to be on your game all the time to make sure that there's no pain coming towards that. Because a little bit of pain towards that, like if you open a kitchen drawer a little weird and it gets you in just the right way, your stomach feels weird for a good 5 minutes after that.
Yeah.
It's a sensitive organ. So our survivors, as usual, escape.
Everyone gets away. Yeah,
and they get
no one's hurt.
And we get back to the Alexandria. And
Eugene's shot. I should say no one got hurt.
He got grazed though, didn't he? He didn't.
Yeah.
He's not like hurt. Which I didn't understand why they made such a big deal about if he'll be okay. It's a graze. People in that camp get grazed all day, every day. So, what is this is pretty much where it ends. We do another little montage around the camp again.
Right before the montage, Well, Abraham and Eugene sort of make up. There's another great line where Abraham says, "You bite a hell of a dick," or something like that. And I mean that in the best way, or something like that.
In the utmost respect. Yeah.
Right. And then Abraham goes to Sasha at the end.
Yeah. Now, did you notice a couple things that last montage? That I don't know if I'm right or wrong in this, but it looked to me like Alexandra is mobilizing for battle because they were getting all this shit together. They were putting vehicles out there as like an escape thing to run to the vehicles if things went bad. They were getting arms ready to go. Also, in this montage, what had been happening in the previous montages was that Eugene was going to take guard alongside Sasha, and this time Rosita went out there, and you saw the awkwardness between the two of them.
Right.
So, but
and then, what's his name? The guy that was having sex with Carol. Tobin. Tobin is his name.
Yeah, right. That's the biggest part of the episode. I'm forgetting completely about it. I'm so anxious to get to Daredevil.
He finds a letter from Carol.
Yeah.
Carol states that she can no longer kill for people that she loves. Which who else are you going to kill for?
People you hate.
I guess. I don't know.
It's not a very convincing thing because she doesn't have to. Remember what they told Morgan? You don't have to kill, but you just have to do your part around here.
Right.
So she doesn't have to do shit. I don't understand her. I don't understand the thinking in making her leave the camp, I guess.
I guess her strength, and she probably knows her strength is killing. So that's what she contributed.
That and acorn cookies.
So yeah, I don't know. So she's gone, and then Rick says that was for next week, preview for next week. Rick says they have to go after her. So it looks like they're going to try to do that.
Okay. So just in closing on this one, did you see that the final episode of the season is going to be a 90-minute episode?
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So
we're going to get
60 minutes of
60 minutes of TV. Yeah.
Of dialogue, and then
and then we're going to see what happens with Negan at the end there, which we all know what's coming. It's just a question at this point of who it happens to, because they built it up so much on social media and everything that we all know the bat is coming. It's just a matter of who is it that gets the bat.
Right.
I think.
I think so too.
Okay, so out of the episode so far, where does this one lie for you?
I thought I didn't like the way it began. It was too slow. It had a lot of Walking Dead tropes, right? It had slow beginning, not much happening until the very end. It had as soon as a character starts being built up and developed, then they get killed. So it had that. So what is this, episode 6 of this half season?
Yeah.
I don't know if the stuff at the end made up for it, so it's not last, so maybe 5th.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. It had all the signs of Walking Dead falling back into its old habits. The only thing that's a little bit different now is that this is episode 6, so they don't have time for a complete slowdown. The next 2 episodes actually have to be something, Right. So that's I don't mind that this was a bit of a kind of a nothing episode. I mean, stuff happened. Stuff did happen. You can't get around that. But in the grand scheme of things, Walking Dead, this was kind of a nothing episode. Denise, though she was the doctor, if they're going to write her out that way, I'm guessing that they didn't feel like they needed her. I don't know why, but, whatever. She wasn't like a big player in the show. So, yeah, I'm fine with that. It was a slower, not as great as the past few have been episode. Doesn't make me go roll my eyes and get to where I've been in the past, where I'm debating on stopping watching the show altogether. So I'm fine with it.
Right.
I probably give it 5th out of 6 again, like you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all we have for Walking Dead. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of the show, my friend.
All right.
Daredevil. I mean, we said there weren't going to be any news stories this week, but really the only news story that's happening during the recording of this show is Daredevil. I mean, Batman v Superman is coming out later this week, but that hasn't happened yet. There are reviews out there, but we don't want to talk about reviews until we've actually seen it and reviewed it ourselves. So let's get into the main story of the week, which is Daredevil, Season 2 on Netflix. Brandon, what are your thoughts on this show?
It's probably one of my favorite shows right now.
This season or the show altogether?
The show altogether.
Okay.
This season has not been a disappointment so far. It's different than season 1. It's a lot more violent, which is funny because Kingpin, he did get pretty darn violent.
Just that one time, though, right?
Just a few times, yeah, when he killed that dude with the car door, and then some of the fight scenes with Fisk and then the final one with Fisk and Daredevil got pretty bloody. But this one's brutal, like the
graphic
stuff with the Punisher and how he's, the people that he kills and the Irish mob. It's brutal and violent. But it's been very good. And, like we said, we are 8 episodes in now. And, yeah, I've been enjoying the heck out of it. I mean, I'm addicted. I can't wait to watch the rest of it.
Yeah.
What have you thought so far?
Exactly the same thing, man. I'm very impressed, and sometimes my jaw, like when I was watching, I was like, my God, like because when the first episode starts, they give you a good 20 minutes of just okay, here's where everybody's at, right?
Right.
So it starts off, and the beginning of the first episode kind of reminded me of like every superhero movie. For some reason, it really brought out a reminder of Ninja Turtles, the movie, the original Ninja Turtles movie. With the Daredevil like pulling people off the street and fighting crime in the dark and the alleys and stuff.
Right.
So it had a lot of like that kind of thing of just showing, hey, Daredevil's still out there and he's fighting crime actively now in Hell's Kitchen. But then like after that 20-minute of setting up where like Foggy and Matt's law firm is now broke, Karen's still there, all of that, we jump right into this thing with the Irish mob. And we don't see the Punisher right away, but he just blasts the fuck out of the building with a gun, not a bomb, but a gun. He unloads on this on this, and it's brutal. You see like bullets go through necks, people bleeding out. It gets crazy. So yeah, I was really surprised by that. I really am really liking that at this point, and it seems like the entire season so far is pretty brutal. It doesn't like really put the brakes on, especially those first 4 episodes where Frank Castle, the Punisher, is the focus
on his rampage.
Yeah, Frank Castle, the Punisher, is the focus of the first 4 episodes, and I really like that about this season because it seems to me so far that this season is being broken up into arcs. Because you like the first arc is the first 4 episodes where you get the Punisher story, get him set up, and then he becomes not a non-entity, but he becomes like this background character in a way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the action is more focused on the trial and on the attorneys, and then Elektra comes in.
Yeah. So
as the sort of the A to the B plot.
Exactly. Elektra takes the place of the Punisher in that second act, episodes 5 through 8, or at least up to where we are now. And it really, the story has like 2 different facets at that point, which I find like it's really well written because they hold it together really well, and that's really hard to do for shows like this. This is like the make or break time when they're doing stuff like this, where they're having 2 completely different plots going on, but having them relate to each other to where, so like they're doing the Punisher's trial, right? Well, we finished that in what we've watched so far. Right. And you have the conflict of, since Matt is helping Elektra carry out the things that she wants to carry out, it makes him less available to represent the Punisher, which causes resentment from Foggy, who becomes the main attorney when Matt is normally the main attorney, and especially because representing the Punisher was Matt's idea to begin with. So there's this whole like very intricate plot line going on, and it's really good, man. Like I'm thrilled with it so far.
Yeah, it's been great. One of the thoughts I had, one of the threads that's going throughout this thing is that exactly what you were saying. Matt he's so run thin doing the stuff with Elektra and being Daredevil that he's completely unable to live another life, and it's kind of he's going to have to realize soon that he can't have a personal life whatsoever. especially personal relationships. You can have an alter ego where, a day job, a cover, but in order to, when he's out there trying to date Karen and that turns disastrous for him, eventually those kind of relationships are going to, he might even risk or lose Karen.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, my hypothesis right now is that it might even be Elektra that kills Karen. Maybe not this episode, or I don't know, maybe this season. At the end of the season, she might kill Karen.
Doesn't she do that in the comic book?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But is it Elektra? Yeah, I think it is.
I think it is Elektra that kills her in the comic book, so you might be right.
Yeah. So I think it's definitely leading that way, and I like that thread where they're constantly showing us how, Matt versus Daredevil and which one is taking over, and as one becomes more involved in the city's happenings, the other one, Matt being Matt, has it almost unable to function,
Well, I have a little thought on that, man. I don't even think it's the city's happenings, because it seems like when we pick up with the characters in episode 1, it seems like he has a pretty good balance going on to being Daredevil and being Matt Murdock. You know what I'm saying? So because
right.
like he has Foggy on his side, and Foggy seems like he's come to terms with everything, and they're even joking about how he's telling Karen that all the bruise and stuff is because he's an alcoholic, and
right.
So it seems like everything is kind of working out for the way Matt wants to live. It does interfere with his relationship with Karen, but if you notice, and I might be wrong about this, but if you look at it, that doesn't really start happening until Elektra comes in the picture. I think he would have been able
right.
to balance it all, but when Elektra comes in the picture and asks for his help, he agrees to do it, but he says one time. But then after they get what they're going after, which is the the tab of the company. What's the name of the company?
I don't know.
It's basically for the Yakuza's book, the Hands book,
right.
of the ledger of their expenditures and stuff like that. And they get that, and it raises more questions for Elektra. And they get back in that limo, and right away she's like, "So what time do you want to do this tomorrow?" And he just starts laughing because he knows he's just in. And I don't think what's going to ruin, if anything, I don't think what would ruin the relationship with Karen is so much that it's a hard time with Daredevil, but I think it's just the draw of the excitement of Elektra, because they show us their youth together, like when they're in college, and it's night and day, the kind of life that you and I've we've all dated exciting girls before that are bad for us, and it's just they're headaches, and you fucking hate them when you're with them, but goddamn if there's not something super exciting about that girl that just keeps you coming back, man. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think there's a draw to Elektra that Matt doesn't want to admit to himself that he just wants so bad. And though he loves being a lawyer and he loves defending the innocent, there's just like a what do you call that? A high that he gets from being around Elektra and the shit she gets herself into.
Yeah. Well, and their interests are combined at this point, right? I mean, Daredevil's interest is that there's the Yakuza is still in Hell's Kitchen and trying to vie for the drug business, and Elektra's interests are defeating the Hand.
Yeah. Plus, she's the only person that he can be 100% honest with. She
right.
knows everything about him, which Karen doesn't and can't relate to it.
Nope.
Yeah.
But so it's going to be interesting what happens from this point on, because now that Elektra has revealed herself as a killer, and that she was working with, that Stick was training her.
Yeah.
And from the beginning. So it's going to be interesting how that dynamic plays out.
Now you're a good
bit
more versed in the comic books than I am for Daredevil. I don't remember that being a piece of Elektra's past from what I know of Elektra. I remember her showing up because she was like hired by Kingpin while he was in prison to kill Daredevil.
Right.
Right.
Right. That's what I remember too. And there was another storyline that I'm trying to remember where she had a backstory where she was a rich debutante, but I can't remember what came from that, or what that
Yeah, I don't know.
Or how she got into Daredevil's life that way, but I can't remember. But no, yeah, it was never anything to do with the hand or stick. So yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Also, here's something that was kind of cool about their past together. The house they broke into, where she said it was her dad's friend and he was out of town. That was a pretty cool little... I thought all of their little pieces together were interesting because it really was like this cute yet morbid love story that was going on with the two of them when they were in college. But they broke into this house, and she told Matt that it was her dad's friend and he was out of town, and they were just going to go in there, and it was insinuated that they were going to go in there and have sex and just party in the house. And so she starts just breaking stuff in the house, and somebody walks in. And when she said, "I'll be right back, I'll go explain it to him," you know what I thought was going to happen? I thought she was going to leave him there, and since the guy would have no idea who Matt is, and I thought that was going to be why he hated Elektra, because it got him in trouble and got him kicked out of law, or gave him trouble in law school or something like that.
Right. That's not the same kind of thing.
That's not what happened at all. It turns out that this is the house of the guy that killed Matt's dad. And she gets Matt to beat the shit out of him while he's tied to a chair. And I'm kind of unclear on this. Is that why? Was that his turning point to where he didn't want anything to do with her anymore?
She told him to finish it, to kill him.
Right.
And, he didn't want to do that. So, yeah, I believe I think that was the turning point.
Yeah.
Because the same kind of thing happened with Karen when he and her were talking about the Frank Castle case and how Karen was kind of on the fence whether what he did was what Frank Castle did might be
right or wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was the same kind of thing. Matt's very staunch in his opinion on that.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we brought that's pretty much the Elektra story up to this point. They start getting into these adventures together, trying to figure out why the Yakuza / the Hand are in New York City and what they're doing. And I'm assuming it has something. I can't remember. Did they bring up Black Sky yet or not?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they did.
I'm just going. I'm remembering Black Sky as a big thing, and I just keep assuming that that's what that hole. They find this giant hole that was dug by the Hand, which we don't know what that is yet. I kind of want them to explain what that is, but at the same time, I kind of want them to wait until the third season, because I'm sure we're getting a third season out of this, because they're setting up too much to resolve all of this right now, and this is being set up as like a 3-act piece to where a third season will be needed to really do this right, because the first season is really about like setting him up and all the characters up as a piece, and this season seems to be so far about them, now that they're established, realizing who they want to be, and what they're willing to be, and how they're going to go about getting there. So there needs to be a third season to resolve all of that. So I do believe we'll get that. So I hope they kind of save what that hole is all about until the next season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But another interesting thing that's kind of going through this season is the idea, and it's kind of an idea that's in Batman comics a lot too, is that the world that Daredevil is in now was created by him. All these people are there because of what Daredevil represents.
Yeah, that's a big theme. They have a name for it too. I can't remember what the detective called it though. Devil Chasers, or... Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. And I like that idea where, and Matt's tore up by that because he's going to his priest and telling him he's guilty. He feels guilty. So he knows that he's culpable for this.
Yeah. It's just the only one that's actually successful in what he wants to do is the Punisher, who is, at this point that we're talking about, on trial now.
Right.
And the trial... okay, so we have this district attorney. Her name's Reyes, right? Is that her name? Yeah, Reyes.
That sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, and she's a real piece of shit. Like, she's a real, cover her own ass. She's into a lot of shady shit. It seems as though she's into a lot of shady shit. And she doesn't care about how she goes about doing cases as long as it makes her look good in the end. She doesn't care about who's innocent and who's not, as long as she's on the side of public opinion and she can further her career. So she's real dirty like that, it seems like. But it seems like Foggy, and by the way, Foggy in this season, can we just give that guy a hand? Like, this character, he was a huge joke. He was the court jester of last season.
Yeah.
And he's my standout character for this season. Like, I'm very impressed with the direction that the writers are letting this character go in. Like, they're giving him a lot of space that they could just be giving to Matt, which would be the easy way to go, but they're taking the long way around everything with making everything so hard for Matt and making everything so easy for Foggy. Like, Foggy looks like the hero right now in respect to the real world, the non-superhero world.
He's our moral compass, right? I mean, he's what roots the viewer in the real world when you have all these fantastical things going on. Yeah, I agree. I think the actor's done a great job, and the writing's been good for him, much better than last season.
Last
season there were moments where Foggy you'd roll your eyes when Foggy got on the screen.
There was that whole episode last season where it was just pretty much him in Matt's apartment asking why Matt lied to him about being Daredevil, and then Matt would explain it, and then he'd just say, "But why'd you lie to me?" It was just like a whole wasted episode last season of Foggy whining, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, but now when Foggy is angry at Matt, you understand why, and you understand what the motives are, and it's been well done.
But anyways, but Foggy is heading Reyes off at the pass in everything she's doing. He's able, no matter how skilled of a lawyer she is, he is doing just as good of a job at finding ways to defend Frank Castle, the Punisher, as his client. The worst enemy of the Punisher in this trial, actually, is the Punisher himself. He's fucking things up for himself left. Like when he's in the hospital after he's captured, they get him. Foggy negotiates this sweetheart deal for him, and he throws it all away. And I'm not really clear as to why he threw it away. Does he know something about Reyes that we don't know yet?
I don't know if that's been revealed yet, or if it's something that's going to be revealed later. Because the way they explain it in the show is that he thinks that Karen might have pushed him into being thinking that they have something on Reyes, and that he's going to stick it to Reyes.
Oh yeah,
right,
yeah.
So yeah, I don't. But I kind of feel like that's going to be revealed later. There's something else, and maybe it was the whole thing with Fisk. Maybe there's something going on there.
Yeah, that was okay. So a couple more things about the trial real quick, and then we'll get on to Fisk.
Yeah,
because that's where we stopped at. That was the big reveal where you and I have ended.
Right.
Okay, so at the trial, they bring this general in, and this general, I don't know.
Did you remember his name?
No, I don't remember his name. Oh,
Schoonover.
Oh, right. It was. I did think that when I saw him. That's your last name. But for the people at home who don't know, I know you know your last name.
Right, I got you.
But that guy, whenever he's in a movie or something, he's always bad news. So when he came...
He's always Army guy, too.
Yeah, he was on The Flash, and he was bad news. And he's in something else as bad news also. But when I first saw him on the screen, I was like, oh, this guy is not good news. And I was like, this guy is a bad guy. I just know it in my heart. And he turns out he's not a bad guy. He happened to serve with Frank, and Frank not only saved him but his whole platoon in a ambush in Afghanistan. Is that where? Yeah, that's the war he was in the Iraq-Afghanistan wars. So I was wrong about that guy. But he still seems menacing for some reason. There's something about his character and his candor and the way they're presenting him that just makes me feel like not only have we not seen the last of him, but there's something about him that is just off. I can't explain what it is right now. But that's just another nail in Reyes' case, the coffin that is Reyes' case at this point. But then Frank gets on stage, and this cop whispers to him, and Matt's the only one that could hear it because of his super hearing.
Uh-huh.
Think about what does he say to him? Think about what you want, or
think about what you want here, Frank, or something like that.
Yeah. So they go through the whole Matt interviews, or what do you call that when you talk to person on the
examines
him, and then all of a sudden he just flips out and just starts screaming about how he's going to do it again. So I wonder what that cop. Okay, so obviously by the way it ended, we should probably clarify how it ended first before we go into theorizing about it. So that cop it ends by Frank going to prison because he flips out and admits the crime, says he's going to do it again. So the jury obviously convicts him. He goes to prison. And we see him in prison, and someone's sitting there waiting for him, and that someone is Fisk, the Kingpin.
Right.
And the episode pretty much just ends right there, basically.
Right.
So I'm assuming that what that cop meant was something to do with Kingpin. Am I right in that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's paid off the obviously because the same cop that took him to the yard where Fisk was working out. It's the same guard. That. Yeah, I think that's right. So yeah, Fisk has paid somebody off, has the police in his pocket like he did when he was the Kingpin.
So you're saying it might be like a layover from last season of where we left Fisk.
What do you mean?
So, like, last season, for most of the season, he had the police department in his pocket. So you're saying there are, like, leftover disciples of Fisk in the police department, and that's what's going on?
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, too.
But, what's the end game? I mean, I'm sure we'll find out, but I'm just speculating. Like, what... I guess he told Frank to blow the trial, make sure he gets convicted so that he gets sent to Gen Pop.
Okay, so I did some thinking on this after I saw that today. And I was trying to think, if that's right, what would possibly be the end game, like you said, for this?
Yeah.
And this is all conjecture on my part, and if you've seen it at home, I'll know by this time next week, so you don't need to tell me. But, so my thought is, I'm trying to think of how to articulate this. Okay, so... we all know that the void that was... okay, Matt taking out Fisk left a void in the crime market of Hell's Kitchen. And Fisk probably doesn't like that. So all I'm thinking is... and I don't have any clear answers on this because I don't see how him being in jail would do this. But Fisk wants to get Punisher on his side because even though he knows that they are enemies, that this guy is the one that can take out... the remaining gangs. Nobody else out there is going to take out these remaining gangs, being the Mexicans, the Irish, and the Dogs of Hell. So that's the only thing that I could think of. And I sat there for like an hour thinking about why this could be, and I don't have a clear answer. I'm actually probably, as soon as we stop recording, I'm probably going to start diving in to find out why.
Yeah, me too, probably.
But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't...
Again, I don't know why him being in prison, how that would help. But if Fisk has enough pull to have a cop bring a new prisoner right to him in the yard while he's weightlifting by himself...
right.
Maybe he has enough pull to orchestrate an escape or something, you know?
Escape or release, yeah. And I wouldn't think he would just be released. But yeah, there's got to be something he's working to get himself released so he can take back over. But that I'm sure they'll do that in a good way and not just be, oh yeah, he's getting released today. I'm sure there'll be some reason. The one thing I was going to mention about the trial is when Matt finally got to the courthouse and did the examination of Frank. That's not what they call it. Cross-examination is what you call it, but when you call a witness...
Okay, I thought cross-examination was when, like, okay, the defense examines and then the prosecution cross-examines.
Maybe you just never hear the term examine.
Yeah, I don't know.
But anyway, Frank kind of looked at Matt a couple of times when he was talking, and I couldn't realize if it was something he said or if it was just the way he was talking. But for a minute there, it seemed like Frank understood that Matt was Daredevil. Did you get that sense at all?
No, but I kind of want to go back and watch that now and see.
There was a couple, and I was thinking, maybe what he said, the choice of words that he used was the same choice of words that Daredevil used in their scene together.
Yeah, maybe.
In the cemetery. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe that was it, but I couldn't. Nothing was sticking out in my brain.
Yeah.
But there was a moment there when he started talking, he kind of like looked at him and he's like, "Wait a minute," before he went loony.
Yeah, I'm gonna dive into this series again because like there is a ton going on. We could go on all night talking about this first half of the season, man. But I mean, we can't go on all night. But I mean, we could sit here and theorize about it. But yeah, I want to see what you're talking about now. So I'm kind of going to need to go back and look at that.
Maybe it was something. I could just be crazy, and it could be something I'm reading into. But I definitely got a moment there. I got something.
It's not going to hurt to go back and watch this. Let me just, for everybody listening to this right now, if you need to go back and watch anything, nothing is going to hurt you to go back, and it's not going to be wasting any time. This is the cemetery scene you're talking about. My God, man, I teared up during that. The scene about when he was talking about his daughter and how he came back and surprised him, how he surprised her when he came back from the war. That was a really good story, and that dude is a phenomenal. John Barenthal, he played Shane in Walking Dead, but he's in a lot. He's in Wolf of Wall Street. He's in a bunch of stuff, but he's a phenomenal actor, man. He's doing a great job as the Punisher. I'm super glad that him getting caught wasn't the end of a story. It was just like him kind of falling into the background for a little bit. And I kind of hope he pops back into the foreground, at least for a couple episodes with what we have. What we have, like 5 episodes left this season? Yeah, 5 episodes. So I kind of hope that he pops into the foreground a little bit because he is like so rich of a character. The scene where he gets caught at the carousel by the Irish mob. And he's just sitting there, like he's not doing anything except sitting there staring off into space. Like you believe that he's like just in himself right there, just like thinking about what happened. Like I was super impressed with his acting. It might be the best acting on the show, I think.
I mean, it's hard to. There's a lot of great acting on this show. I mean, Kingpin, Vincent D'Onofrio, as Kingpin was also great. So it's hard to, but I agree. He did a fantastic job. Now, have you read any Punisher comics? Because I have not.
Never read a Punisher comic, but I have.
I've read a little bit of stuff when he crossed over with Daredevil, I suppose.
Yes, if you want to dive into that, I have access to them all, so we can dive into that.
I don't know if I want to because I don't know if it interests me, but I just was curious if sort of his backstory was the same as in the show, if it was personal, because I always thought he was just kind of a vendetta. He was a crime fighter, but he just was a violent crime fighter.
Yeah,
and I didn't think it because the Punisher in the show is personal. It's all personal for him.
Yeah, I've seen all the Punisher movies up until this point, and not that it's hard to beat, but he's the best one of them all.
Yeah,
Thomas Jane was all right as the Punisher. The story was a little hokey, but you know what? Actually, as I'm sitting here thinking about this, and I could be wrong, and please, everybody out there listening, tweet at me or email me if I am. I feel like Stick, the guy who's playing Stick in Daredevil, played Daredevil's father. I mean, Punisher's father in the Thomas Jane Punisher.
Really?
Movie. I feel like that's a thing right now. Like because there's a scene in the Punisher movie where they go on vacation together before. Because what happens in the Punisher movie is the mob kills not just his like wife and kids. They kill his entire like extended family, his mother, his father, his cousins, and everything. While they're in this big family reunion, they rented out this little island, and I as I'm visualizing it, I feel like I see Stick as Punisher's father in that movie. I could be wrong. It's just in my mind. It's been years since I've seen the movie. Do you have anything else you want to talk about with this half of the season? Because that's everything I had for my notes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we talked about most of. Well, I guess we didn't talk much about the Punisher before he got arrested, before he was on trial. I don't know if there's anything you want to touch there about the Irish.
Well. Yeah, there's not really. There's a lot of interesting things about him. For one, that first episode, all we see of him is when he goes into the hospital and starts shooting, and then we have that first fight with Daredevil, and he goes into this hospital and just opens fire with innocent people around because he wants to get this one guy, Grotto, but they call him Groat a few times. Everybody says his name differently. It's either Groat or Grotto. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. understand that. If there's like a racist New York thing against Irish people, you know, are kind of like a Irish joke. But he goes in there to kill Grotto, and he's shooting indiscriminately at people. And then he gets in that big fight with Daredevil in the end, and he shoots Daredevil in the face. Now, Melvin said that he doesn't think he was trying to kill him, he was just trying to wound him. But you don't shoot somebody in the face without trying to kill them. What do you think that's correct?
Well, he said that if he would have shot him a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, he would have killed him.
Right.
But how would he have known that what he was wearing was bulletproof?
Yeah.
I mean, was enforced. I don't know.
Yeah. Also, it seemed to you like Melvin is a little less Forrest Gumpy this time around. It seems like he's an actual like normal person, just a little eccentric this time. Last season, he had autism or something last season.
Right. He was like, "Oh shucks, Daredevil." Yeah, it was more like that.
Yeah, he's not like that at all. That if I have one complaint about this season of Daredevil, and it might be the only one, it's the random change of his character. It just seems like they didn't want to spend time writing him as a feeble-minded person. And that's the only complaint I have about this season so far. But anyways, second episode, we don't see a lot again, except we have a scene with him in a pawn shop where he's getting a police scanner so he can pick up on what the police are doing. And he kills a guy because the guy tries to sell him kitty porn. That's the thing that happens in the show. This show gets dark. Like, this is a dark season.
Oh, it is. Yeah. It's a dark show.
Let's see. And then we have another fight with Daredevil and a Punisher.
I was kind of surprised that the big fights with them were so early. I mean, it makes sense now that we've seen. Yeah. Now that we've seen the trajectory of the season, it makes sense. But it was a little surprising, wasn't it, that these big battle scenes were right at the start?
And they're not just flimsy little ones either. They're like highly choreographed martial arts balls. They're as big
as like the big action sequence from last season.
Yeah,
where he saved that kid. You know, they're as big as that one.
Speaking of big action sequences, let's get to that actually, because that has to do with the Punisher. So the third episode is pretty much Matt chained. It's straight from the comic books. Matt chained to a roof in the Daredevil costume, and it's he and Frank having a philosophical disagreement on if it's right to kill somebody, or if it's who's bad, or if it's right to leave them alive. And it's a real, like, normally this would get annoying to me because it's just like, okay, you're repeating the same points over and over again, but they're not really. They're actually having a discussion, and it's like this, like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like this battle of the minds where both people, neither of them are right, but neither of them are wrong. So they're never going to come to an agreement on this. And Daredevil is never going to stop him, and he's not going to kill Daredevil because he knows that Daredevil is not a bad guy, which really shows a lot about Punisher's character. So it's this really, really cool back and forth they have going on, which ends with him with Punisher having Grotto on the roof and duct taping a gun to Daredevil's hand, saying, "If you don't kill me, I'm going to kill him." And Daredevil gets free by shooting the chains off of himself, which turns into Punisher getting his ass kicked and being dragged into the apartment building where the fucking fight of the century goes on. Like, if you thought this hallway scene... this takes nothing away from the hallway scene from season 1, by the way.
No.
That is amazing in and of itself, that was done on a television show where the budgets are so small. That's amazing. This one is just... It just takes that concept and elevates it just a little bit, because you have to imagine it on 3 floors instead of one hallway.
Right. So it was a very similarly shot, right? I mean, you have the one long shot going through, in and out of rooms. Yeah. So I mean, it was very similar, but so much bigger and longer.
Daredevil's whipping guys with chains and okay, here's a little
beating people with his gun club.
Because the gun's duct taped to his hand, he can't get rid of it. Here's a little thing I noticed in this. For as concerned with Daredevil is with not killing people, doing this in real life would fucking kill people. He grabs one guy around the neck with a chain, pulls him over the ledge of the stairs, throws, and the guy lands 2 stories down on a set of steps. That would kill a person.
You think so?
Yeah, I'm. Well, if it doesn't, it could definitely. There's a high chance you die from that. So him doing those kind of things doesn't really show that he has a high concern with bad guys living. He's just not trying to kill them actively. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it's probably just one of those suspension.
That's totally what it is. Yeah, and it doesn't bother me.
Same thing as Batman. Batman does the same stuff.
I was watching it, and that's just a thought that popped in my head. I was like, for a guy that who's arguing the fact of keeping these people alive, he's not doing too much to try to do that.
Right. You should throw a pillow down before he throws a guy off some stairs, for God's sake.
Yeah.
That would be hilarious. He finds a pillow and throws it down there before he throws the guy.
But, yeah, man, that's... Oh, and, okay, so let's get to how Frank get caught, and then we can shut it down then. So Frank gets caught at that... I was talking earlier about the carousel scene where he's just staring up into space. Well, the Irish mob finds him there, and he takes them out, but they drug him, and then they take him to this place. I'm not clear on what that place is, but they start torturing him to get him to tell them where the money's at. Luckily, Daredevil shows up, and by the way, this Irish guy, the main Irish guy, real badass, real scary guy. He's pulling it off. But Punisher blows his face.
Man,
it's not.
I forgot about that.
It's not like you see the trigger get pulled or anything like that. You watch this guy's face as it's eviscerated on camera. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And they walk out to the graveyard and wait for the cops to come, and that's when Daredevil kind of gives his story and like gives you like a deeper insight on who he is as a person. You find out his real story from Karen, who's somehow taking up Ben Urich's place from last season. But yeah, that's pretty much what you get of Frank Castle as a main story point in this season of the show.
Yeah.
What do you get? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious what we give the show right now, but for the sake of things, let's just, what do you give this show? Like,
what am I rating?
1 to 10. 1 to 10.
Oh, I mean, so far it's 10.
Yeah.
I love it.
Straight up 10, man. I agree. Now, I see potential, and I'm going to find out here within a day or two if I'm right. I see potential for it to go downhill, but the way they are escalating things, they are doing a phenomenal job at resolving things before they introduce too much at one time. So it doesn't seem like there's going to be a lot of balls in the air with everything they're juggling. It seems like whoever's writing the show really knows how to calm a situation down before we introduce something else. I don't know how the Fisk situation is going. That's obviously going to be something. Fisk is a big part of this season going forward. Also, obviously, the Punisher is going to be a big part of the situation going forward. But we also still have this thing they've started introducing with the hand. And I'm guessing that's going to be a big part of the season. So we have 5 episodes left with these giant things left to go.
And Elektra.
Yeah. And, Elektra isn't like that, since she's part of the... I'm looping her in with the hand because...
Yeah, but there's the whole Elektra and Matt relationship that's
true. So there's a ton that we have to resolve in 5 hours of film. And these are long episodes, too. Like, when you're done watching one, it's not longer than a normal Netflix episode, but I'd say 55 minutes is probably about how long they are. But, like, there's so much, they're so dense that you feel like you've been sitting there so long because so much has just been thrown at you. It flies by, but it's just like, I just took in that much information, and it's like you're Neo in the Matrix. Like, I know Kung Fu. You just know so much by the time it's all done. So I got to give it a 10 with a tentative. I hope they continue how great it's been so far into this third act of the second season.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I think it definitely feels like we're at the end of the second act where we stopped, and that this is going to be the third act the rest of the season. So, the third act is tricky, isn't it? And that's where a lot of movies fall apart. So, but I don't see it happening. I think they can pull it off. I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be great, man. I'm so excited about it. That's all we have, I guess, for this episode. we are going to finish up our review of this. I'm sure Brandon and I will talk about it at length in between now and then, but next Tuesday when we record, and the episode will be out Wednesday. So make sure you come back if you want to hear our thoughts on how it all ended. I'm guessing, damn man, I don't know how to do this because we're obviously going to have to review Walking Dead with it being so close to the end there. But yeah. I'm guessing that next week when we talk about Daredevil, it's going to be a pretty deep retrospective because I'm guessing there's going to be elements from these first 2 acts that we have to reference in that third act, and that third act is going to be a dense act. I can feel it. So it might be a bit of a listen next week, but I feel like it's going to be worth it for sure. Guys, make sure that if you listen on iTunes, listen on Stitcher, you're subscribed on either of those things so you can get the newest episodes as they come out. And whichever one you do listen on, make sure you rate and review the show. It helps me get listeners and blah, blah, blah. You know all that information. Please make sure you check out the YouTube channel. I put up a new video the other day. It's about Marvel and their end credit scenes and how they relate to everything, or if they even do relate to everything, and how people get their panties in a bunch about them relating to things, or if they don't exist in movies. So go check that out. It's a cool little video I put some time into, so I'd appreciate it if you'd go watch it. If you are thinking about starting a little geeky collection like Brandon and I have with these Pop Vinyl figures, please visit mainstreamgeek.com/nerdblock. I got my nerd block the other day, and I got a Pop Vinyl figure. It was of Grey Worm, actually, from Game of Thrones. So, yeah, cool. I got a Grey Worm Pop Vinyl from that. Also, guys, as I said at the beginning of the show, if you've ever done podcasting, you know there is a cost involved in doing it, and those costs are server cost. You get in a lot amount of bandwidth for a span of time, and once you've passed that, there are fees associated with that. So if you guys enjoy what we're putting out there, I would greatly appreciate you showing that you do that by maybe dropping us like $1 or $2 or $5 by going to mainstreamgeek.com/donate. That'll give us a little bit of cash to help pay for the bandwidth that we have going on with this show and my other podcast, Complete Straight, at www.completestraight.com. Don't need to say www, but I did for some reason. And it just helps cover the cost of doing that so we can continue delivering this to you for free. We put a lot of work into this show. Brandon, how much work would you say you put into putting together your thoughts for an episode or news stories on this every week?
Oh, I don't know, a couple of hours.
Yeah, a couple hours. And me, myself, between this show and Thursday's show and the episodes of Complete Straight, which I do 2 every week, I'm looking at probably around 15 hours a week of prep time, recording time, travel time, all of that's good stuff. So I'm putting on top of a full-time job, I'm doing this. So if you can't contribute, keep listening for free. But if you can and you enjoy what I'm putting out there, I would highly appreciate anything you can throw my way to help cover these server costs. Brandon, do you want to pimp anything out before we go?
No, I'm on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram at ScoonNuts.
With a Z.
With a Z.
Yeah.
We've established, because I'm a cool 90s kid. We're going to be watching Batman versus Superman.
Oh, good point.
And reviewing it on Jason's other podcast, Completely Straight. So I'm looking forward to that on Friday. So we'll that'll be up on. Are you putting up on this feed as well, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it up in this feed too. But go give my other podcast some love. We've been growing in the ratings here lately, but it never hurts to grow some more. Unless the server fees really catch up with you. That's all we have for you this week, guys. We will be back on Thursday with Travis, where we talk about our comic book and nerdy things he and I have in common. Until then, keep it geeky.